At 68, I never imagined I'd be lying in a hospital bed, pretending to be unconscious, just to hear my own son whisper that he wanted me dead. Those words cut deeper than any illness ever could. Built my life brick by brick. My company, Vasquez Construction, was my pride, my second child. I started it when I was 25, driven by a stubborn belief that hard work could build more than houses. It could build legacy. I was wrong. Legacy is fragile. It lives and dies in the hands of those you trust most. My wife, Elizabeth, had been my compass for over 4 decades. Her voice, the calm that kept storms at bay. And our children, Emily, my daughter, had grown into a strong, independent woman in Chicago, thoughtful, steady, never once asking for anything she didn't earn. But Adam, my son, was different. At 42, he was a man still chasing stability, forever stumbling between half-started dreams and unfulfilled promises. When I was admitted to Mercy General with severe pneumonia, both of them came to my side. Emily's concern was sincere. She called every day, asking about my oxygen levels, my medication, my recovery. Adam's concern, however, came wrapped in questions that didn't feel like love. Dad, where's your will kept? Who manages the company if something happens to you? He asked with the same casualness one might ask about the weather. Yet his eyes gleamed at the mention of numbers, not at first. I wanted to believe he was just being responsible, finally stepping up. But with each passing day, his visits felt more like audits than acts of affection. And his wife, Corinne, sat by his side like a silent accountant. Memorizing every answer I gave, Dr. Johnson, my attending physician, said I was recovering. But the oxygen was vital. That rest and calm would heal me. But calm isn't possible when you begin to sense something sinister breathing in the same room. It was the 4th night. When that sense became certainty, around 3 a.m., through the haze of sedatives, I heard the door creak. Someone entered softly. Deliberate steps, too careful, too familiar. Adam. His shadow leaned over me. The light from the corridor slicing across his face, not the face of my son, but of a man resolved to do something irreversible. And then I felt it, the slow tug at my oxygen line. The hiss of air fading. My lungs screamed while my mind froze in disbelief, and then came the whisper. This is the last time you breathe, old man. I stayed perfectly still, pretending to sleep, listening as my son planned my death. But fate has a cruel sense of timing, and that night, someone else heard the sound of my dying breath. The oxygen line went limp in my nostrils. Silence, except for the rasp of my own shallow breath, filled the room. I could hear Adam's pulse in his throat, quick and uneven, like the rhythm of a thief who knows what he's stealing can never be returned. He leaned close again, whispering, "It's time for you to rest. You've had your turn, old man. Let us live now." He thought he was ending a chapter. He didn't know he was writing the first line of his own undoing. My body screamed for air. But my mind, that stubborn old machine built on decades of business battles, stayed still. I let him believe I was slipping away. I listened as he spoke to himself, revealing everything. Corinne was right, he murmured. Once it's done, the inheritance comes immediately. We can pay the banks, clear the debts. Emily won't even suspect. So this was what I built my empire for, so my son could murder me for its ashes. Then came footsteps, soft at first, then urgent. Adam froze. His eyes darted to the door. It opened. Nurse Chloe stood there, a woman of 40-something, with the kind of authority that comes from saving too many lives to tolerate deceit. "What are you doing here, Mr. Vasquez?" she asked. The hallway light poured in, illuminating the disconnected tube in his hand. He stammered, I thought he wasn't breathing right. I was just fixing it." But Chloe had seen panic before. She didn't buy it. "I checked this equipment less than 2 hours ago," she said, inspecting the tube. It was perfectly fine. Her eyes narrowed as she adjusted the connection and checked the monitor. My oxygen levels were low, dangerously low, and she made a note of it. I could feel her professionalism turn into quiet suspicion. She told Adam to leave. He muttered excuses and slipped out, leaving behind the scent of guilt and sweat. When the door closed, I opened my eyes. Chloe froze. Mr. Michael, were you awake? I heard everything, I whispered. He tried to kill me. She didn't flinch. What do you need me to do? My phone? The nightstand. I need to call my lawyer. Right now. She nodded once, a silent pact born out of danger, and handed me the phone dot at 4:20 a.m. I called James Miller, my lawyer, my old friend. James, I said, my voice trembling. My son just tried to murder me. By sunrise, my will and my world would be rewritten forever. By the time dawn broke over Mercy General, I had already lived a lifetime in one night. James Miller arrived at 5:10 a.m. Wearing a suit and a white doctor's coat to avoid suspicion, Chloe guided him quietly into my room, her eyes sharp, her silence absolute. He pulled a chair beside my bed. Michael, he said softly, tell me everything. And I did. Every word Adam had whispered, every number, every plan, how my son, my blood, had stood over my bed and plotted my death with clinical precision. James didn't interrupt once. He just listened, his pen scratching against paper like a scalpel cutting through illusion. When I finished, he leaned back, his expression grave. Michael, this isn't just betrayal. It's premeditated attempted murder. But before we involve the police, we need to secure your assets. If Adam has used your company as collateral, you could lose everything overnight. I called you for that exact reason, I replied, my voice shaking but steady. I want my will changed. Tonight, Adam gets nothing. Everything, the company, the estate, the accounts, goes to Emily. James looked at me for a long moment, searching for hesitation. There was none. Once I file this, it's irreversible. I have already buried a son in my heart, I said. Now I'm burying his inheritance. For the next hour, he worked meticulously, typing, printing, and signing documents with the precision of a surgeon removing a tumor. When the final version of the new will was ready, he read it aloud. Emily Vasquez, sole heir of Vasquez Construction and all associated properties. Adam Vasquez, disinherited for cause. I signed it with a trembling hand. My chest heavy, but my conscience clear. James placed his hand on mine. It's done. At 7:45 a.m., the new will was registered, sealed, and legally binding. My life's work was safe from him. Elizabeth arrived not long after, clutching a folder of bank statements and contracts. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. Michael, she whispered, I found things, terrible things. Inside the folder were forged signatures, my name scrawled onto loan documents and mortgage applications I had never seen. Adam and Karen had been digging my financial grave long before they tried to take my life. Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. He used your company as collateral, Michael. $85,000 in personal loans. $125,000 on the condo. I could barely breathe, not from illness, but from heartbreak. But betrayal is a living thing, and that very night, my son would return to finish what he started. By mid-morning, the truth had spread like poison through my veins. Elizabeth sat beside me, pale and trembling, reading document after document, proof that Adam had forged my signature, mortgaged our properties, and used my company as collateral for his own debts. The boy I once carried on my shoulders had become a stranger wearing my name. Dr. Johnson entered during our grim discovery. When Chloe handed him her nightly report, his brow furrowed. This is serious, he said. Any interference with oxygen at your stage could have been fatal. Doctor, I replied, I want a camera installed in this room, one that records everything, day and night. He hesitated. That's an unusual request. Then call it a medical precaution, I said, because I don't intend to die quietly. By noon, 2 discrete cameras were in place. One faced my bed, the other watched the door. A small monitor rested beside me with a silent alert button that could summon security without a sound. I stared at that button for a long time, my hand hovering over it. Imagining a night to come, Elizabeth and I reviewed every scrap of evidence we had gathered. loan papers, forged contracts, photos of our properties with handwritten prices scrawled on the back. Adam had cataloged our entire estate as if he were already dead and dividing his spoils. When I told Elizabeth that I expected him to return, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. You think he'll try again? I know he will, I said softly. Greed doesn't stop halfway. The next morning arrived, cloaked in stillness. At 10:15 a.m. The door opened. Adam walked in with flowers and the kind of practiced smile that makes you colder inside. Morning, Dad, he said. You look stronger today. I feigned weakness, slow breathing, half-closed eyes. He talked about recovery, family, the company, until he finally said it. Maybe it's time to transfer things, Dad. You're 68. It's only practical. Each word was a blade. I told him I was tired and let my eyes close again. He waited, watched, then moved toward the oxygen tube. And once again, my son reached out to kill me. This time, the cameras were watching. This time, I was ready. I reached for the silent alert and pressed it. In less than 2 minutes. My room would become the stage for a confession that would destroy my son's life forever. The moment my finger pressed the silent alert, time fractured. Adam didn't notice. He was too busy playing God with a tube in his hand. I watched him disable the alarms, adjust the monitors, whispering numbers like prayers to a deity made of greed. The company's worth $2.3 million, he murmured. We'll pay the lenders, buy the condo, and start over. Emily will never know. I opened my eyes. Adam, what are you doing with my oxygen? His body froze mid-movement. The color drained from his face. Dad, it came loose. I was just fixing it. I sat up slowly, letting my voice harden. I heard everything. Every dollar you counted. Every plan you made. And every word you whispered while you thought I was dying. His legs trembled. He looked like a man realizing his reflection had finally started to speak back. Then the door burst open. 3 security guards, Nurse Chloe, and Dr. Johnson stepped inside. Behind them stood Robert Castle, head of security, holding a tablet streaming the live feed. Everything you just did, Robert said calmly, is recorded, audio, video, and time-stamped. Adam's knees gave out. He collapsed, sobbing, Please, Dad. Don't call the police. I didn't mean... You meant every word, I said. You rehearsed it. Moments later, James Miller entered, briefcase in hand, his presence like a verdict. Michael, he nodded. It's time. He handed Adam the certified copy of the new will. Adam's hand shook as he read. Then came the sound, a strangled, desperate laugh that broke into a scream. This can't be real. It's real, I said quietly. You lost your inheritance the moment you decided to take my breath. Then Karen stormed in, fury in her eyes, disbelief in her voice. But when the recordings played, when Adam's own confession filled the room, silence swallowed her rage. She sank to her knees beside him. We just needed the money, she whispered. No, I replied. You needed my death. That day, justice didn't come with sirens or handcuffs. It came with signatures, cameras, and truth. By nightfall, the police had their evidence. My will was secure, and my heart, though fractured, finally rested. Weeks later, Emily took over the company, sold it, and led Elizabeth and me into a life we'd never dared to imagine, one filled with peace, travel, and quiet mornings free from betrayal. I often think of Adam, of the boy who once built sandcastles beside me and grew, into a man who tried to bury me beneath one. But in the end, it wasn't oxygen that kept me alive. It was truth. And truth. I've learned always breathes last. Some stories end with forgiveness. Mine ends with clarity.